All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Networking the No Rules Way with author Christy Smallwood. I'm your host, Sabrina Watson, founder of NetworkLiveVirtually.com, where we help you build relationships on a local, national, or international level. Christy Smallwood is one of our new hosts there. I think you're starting next week. Is that correct, Christy?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. All right. And she's going to be putting together soon for the platform, I do believe. And I may have to double check on this. We're going to be doing some boot camps, teaching you how to connect with others. And today our topic is the follow-up. So we're teaching you how to network, ladies and gentlemen, whether it's in person or online. All of the principles are the same. Christy Smallwood is, like I said, the author of The No Rules Way. Networking, and she is going to share her link, which she just did there in the chat for
Ta-da!
you. If you would like to read her book, that is what we're working out of right now. So, good morning, Christy. What's happening?
Morning. All kinds of things. Let's see. Do I want to notify? Yes, I want to notify. It has all these things that it asks you to do as you get started with this.
I know, it's craziness. So we're going to talk about the follow-up today. We've got an open seat if somebody'd like to join us. If you have networking questions, believe it or not, it appears to me that in 2015, well, we're almost in 2016, people still, Christy, do not know how to connect. They don't know how to connect in person, and they especially don't know how to connect online. Would you agree?
I agree.
So we have this great opportunity to teach people how to connect.
Yes. And let me just say, there is a difference between gathering people and connecting with people. Because what I found online is there's a couple people that I know in my circles that if I friend somebody on Facebook, even I've met them in person, I've friended them on Facebook or they friended me, we've done the friend request thing, and then it shows up apparently in the site or whatever, it shows up that we're now friends to my circle of friends. And so that becomes a mutual friend. So Sabrina, you've now become a mutual friend to Charlene. Okay. So then what Charlene would do, not that Charlene does this because she doesn't, because she's an expert. So let's use Sally. Okay. So Sabrina, you're now viewed by Sally as a potential new friend because you have me in common. And so what Sally ends up doing is she will go through all of my friends, and because I'm the common person, she friend requests all of my friends. That's gathering people.
Oh, that's considered gathering people.
Well, that's what I call it. I mean, because you're just gathering numbers. You're not actually creating connections. You're just gathering the number of people.
What's the point in that?
One is to create an audience base. So that is a marketing tool if you want to create an audience there. Because with Twitter, when I first started using Twitter years ago, I guess when I first launched my coaching practice, 2010, it was very popular, and it probably still happens now, where there were some people in my graduating class would hire other people to go follow everybody they can find on Twitter with the expectation that person on Twitter is going to reciprocate and follow back. So that's how to create an audience, so that whenever I have a message, it pushes to that audience. Same thing with Facebook. If you know only 7% of your friend base will have your message show up in their friend feed, then it's a matter of building a bigger audience base so more people sees your message.
Steve, we are not necessarily talking Twitter, but of course you're welcome to join. Our topic today is follow-up.
The follow-up.
The follow-up, yes. And we're talking about networking, of course, the No Rules Way with author Christy Smallwood, as you know, because I know you've been here before. And we are discussing the follow-up, but we're talking about kind of prior to that, we're talking about the fact that people just really don't know how to connect. And that what Christy was talking about is that people go out and they friend all these people just to get a gathering. She calls it a gathering. To find an audience. But I'm not so sure that that works, Christy, because frankly, I have friends whose posts I never see.
Right.
So
it's not effective. And when it becomes for the middle person, for me. So say Sally has tried to friend you because I'm your mutual friend. Well, you're now contacting me and saying, who is this Sally person? I have no idea who she is. What do I need to know about her? Should I accept that friend request or not? Well, that puts me in a really awkward position because I just met Sally.
Yeah.
Or, we've only been networking together. We're not like buds. So, it becomes I don't know what to say with that. That kind of puts that person, if you don't know if I've got a real connection with my new friend or not. So the gathering aspect of things, it is not all that effective. If you want to build real connections, real relationships with networking, you can either build an audience that's marketing, or you can network and build real connections.
Good morning, Steve. I just want to say, I think this is a pretty interesting conversation for you today. We're going to talk about the follow-up.
Yes, and Sabrina and I were just in a Zoom meeting where a guy called Elliot made a very good point. He emails people no more than 50 to 100 at a time, highly segmented by the sounds of it, and then will attempt to follow up with a phone call if he gets no response. Wow. I mean, that's you've got to really know the people that you're emailing to if you go about it that way.
Yes.
That's a long, tough road too.
Yeah. Yeah, but
it's very much an intensive sales cycle.
It's very what, sorry?
An intensive sales cycle. When you have that much, if you're blasting out an email, because I know some people who'll do that 10 at a time because it's more manageable for them and they can make it more personal on their phone calls. But still, you're emailing out, and then a couple of days later, if you've not heard from them, you follow up with a phone call or even a direct mail piece. So like snail mail. Somehow to be able to create so many connections, and then finally you have a real conversation.
Okay, so let's talk about the follow-up. Take it away.
So when you're at an event, typically whenever we're face-to-face at an event, my goal is to, when I connect with somebody, if I know I want to potentially do business with them, or I have something in mind that was really helpful for them, I want to get to a what B&I calls a one-on-one, fill the dance card, go have coffee or lunch or breakfast, whatever.
Or
anytime,
Zoom.
Very soon. So
Zoom.
Zoom or Zoom.
Zoom.
And this is one of the nice things about our technology nowadays is that the calendar is right here. And so if this is in my pocket, when I go to an event, I pull out the calendar and say, when do you have available? They pull out their calendar and say, next Tuesday, lunch. Great, that works for me too. Where are we going? And that keeps that process efficient. So I'm not sending out the time I would take to send 50 emails and then follow up with 50 phone calls to get maybe 3 meetings. My time is better spent connecting with 5 people at an event and getting 3 meetings. So there's the efficiencies of the follow-up. So the follow-up looks different from the environment or the platform that you're in. So for example, in our room here in Blab, we've got some face-to-face going on. We've got some side comments that we're able to communicate back and forth with. And then along the top, if there's something I've been saying, you guys have the option above my head to friend me or not. Add me to your Twitter. And then by all means, if there's something, epiphany that you've had because of something I've said, direct message me, right? Follow up with me through Twitter in that direct. Now that you're following and connecting, you can communicate with me. And so then it's just a matter of go communicate with me.
And what are some of the best ways to begin that communication?
If we're in a room like this, like I just said, if there's some sort of epiphany that you got out of something I said, or you just, you like seeing an elliptical in the background or whatever, something that connects this conversation to you and me. So that what is the common element, and start with that common element. Hey, saw you on the Blab today. Really enjoyed what you had to say. Would love to ask a couple questions, or would love to communicate more. It could be as simple as that. We don't have to overthink that initial conversation, but start with the common element. Where did I see you, or what did you hear? What is the thing? Where were we at the same place? There have been times I've been at an event, and I do a lot of handshaking events, a lot. So sometimes when I'm there, I have seen somebody in the room that I really want to connect with. I haven't connected with yet, but I didn't get to officially meet them. What I will do is I will go find them on LinkedIn and send the request to connect. And in that message line of, I want to add you to my network. Hey, saw you at this such and such event, saw you at this reception, didn't get a chance to say hi. I'm hoping we can connect here. And then that's it. It doesn't have to be complicated, but just, hey, I saw you here, would love to connect. Are you open to that? 9 times out of 10, everybody's going to say yes, because, you know, we had that common thing already established. So if you establish the common thing, everybody's a little bit more open to the connection.
Just want to remind everybody that we do have an open seat if you would like to join us. Steve, I want to ask you, since you were at a virtual networking event this morning and we're talking about the follow-up.
Yeah.
Are you going to follow up? And you're going to have to follow up with email because we weren't on a platform of any kind. And how do you feel about follow-up?
I feel good.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah, no. So I'm very interested in Twitter right now, and so I was busy in that meeting checking out, am I following you already on Twitter? And if I wasn't, I followed you on Twitter. So everybody in that meeting, I attempted to follow, apart from Hatran. I couldn't find out. There were so many Hatrans, I got lost. Yes, the follow-ups where it's at. I mean, the point of these things is to make the initial connection, and I love the way you put that, Christy. Epiphany moments, just something that you said that makes somebody go, you know, we might be able to work together, or I just want to hear more about what you've got to say, something like that. But that is a bigger connection than perhaps you might see on Twitter or a text-based thing, but it's still only just the start, isn't it? It's that the follow-up is then when things are going to happen. So yes, so you've got to be proactive. To answer your question specifically, Sabrina, so I was doing that Twitter, but also, you know, I'm not mucking about. I will be doing a live session live. All risks are on the table. You just hit me with what
I'm
you've got.
excited about that. I really am. Steve does 3D animation, Christy. So
awesome.
And he's been working on a project now for about 5 years. Is that correct?
Coming up for 6 now, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And
yes,
of course, he hasn't unveiled that to any of us. So
no, well, you can see the progress so far. It's on YouTube. You just click on my name there. You get the sizzle reel, and that takes you into the playlist. But so the point, if we're talking about, now this is kind of related to follow-up, but I was on other blabs where you're talking about the journey as you're doing it, the pain, the upside, the downside. If you want to connect, the point is that, and I'm not just talking about me, I'm talking about us in general, connect with me, see how I solve the problems, and keep moving forward to that goal. I think it's important to show that you're succeeding. And I think that's quite a powerful, it's kind of it's related to follow-up, but it's kind of live follow-up. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah.
People love to be around successful people. And the way that we learn about success is hearing the challenge and how you've overcome it, because that equals a successful moment.
Yeah.
Success is not always related to dollar figures. Success is related to a sense of accomplishment. And whatever that looks like is very individual for all of us.
Very true.
At this point, I'd love to say, and of course it made me a multi-millionaire, but I can't quite say that just yet.
That's coming. That's like next week, right?
Yeah.
So, hey, everybody, just a quick reminder that we're networking the No Rules Way with author Christy Smallwood. We're talking about the follow-up. Please tweet to your followers. We've got an open seat. Feel free to come join us. And we're talking with Steve Payne, who is a, what do I call you? A 3D animator? Is there a title like that? That
would be a spot-on title. Thank you very much.
Perfect. I was just guessing that. And Steve and I were actually earlier in a virtual networking meeting sponsored by networklivevirtually.com. where you can actually find Christy Smallwood beginning next week as a new host there. Yeah, Christy's coming on next week as a new host. We have Jeanette Ortega coming on next week as a new host. So we're going to be doing some networking like crazy going on here pretty soon.
Should have given that one there.
Yeah. So Christy, if I want to use today's example again, just because Steve's sitting here. So if I met somebody new in the networking, virtual networking today, and I want to connect with them, maybe I just want to connect with them. So I say something, I email them and I say, well, this really resonated with me. I'm really curious about 3D animation, for example. I'll just use Steve Payne. And so we get into this conversation, or we set up a meeting, and we've started via email. What's the best way for us to kind of keep that dialogue going? What are the things I should do or not do when I'm in a new conversation with somebody like Steve, for example?
I would say always have some sort of goal in mind. Even if it's just a matter of, I'm really curious and want to know more. I want to learn something about what you do. Mm-hmm. I don't know what to do with that yet, but I want to learn something. Or I want to be able to share with Steve my favorite 3D animations, or talk about animation. Like, animation really catches my ears because I love animation. I can't do a lick of it, but I love it. And you know everything about it. So you are now my expert on all things animation. It didn't even matter that there was 3D in front of that. So I would look to you to be able to talk about all things animation. And that would be a fun conversation for me. Now, if I were working at something and I was like, ooh, this may be something that I could use to further my business, like with a commercial of some sort that is 3D animated. And well, I don't know how this works. So if I have a project in mind, then same here. If I have a project in mind, then I would want to pick your brain about, would this project be able to come to life through 3D animation? So I would have a goal of the conversation of where I would want that to go.
Ooh, that's a very good idea, Christy. And Steve, that's a very good idea for you right there. Because, and the reason I'm going to say this is because I have not seen anybody online anywhere offering any 3D programs or services. Now, those it makes for amazing sales videos, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, particularly for, as I said in the Zoom meeting, construction based, a building or something. If you've got something to 3D model it, look at it from all the angles. That's pretty powerful. Zoom in, zoom out. Yeah.
Yep. In fact, I have a project in mind. We're just not ready for that yet.
Ooh, project. I love projects.
Yeah, right. I love projects too because they're all fun. Yes. So I'm really glad to have met you, Steve, because I know at some point in my projects that I'm working with clients, I'm going to need your services.
Awesome.
And so we will be able to connect separately on a Zoom to have this one-on-one conversation to go deeper into what you do and how did you get started? I want to hear your story. For me, I have learned when I'm connecting with somebody, when I'm adding somebody into my network, it's up to me to figure out where you fit in my network. This is why I don't like gathering. Gathering is, I'm going to build an audience. I know for me, what I do as a speaker and an author, I need an audience. I need a level of an audience out there who just becomes aware of my message, and those that want at a deeper level will step into my circles at a deeper level. Okay.
Yeah.
But those that I connect with, it's up to me to decide where you fit in my network.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do a little role playing here. If you were, because we've got Steve, if he doesn't mind being our guinea pig, we've got Steve here now. Let's do a little role playing. Let's talk about how you would connect with him, let's do that conversation. What are some of the things what are some of the things you would ask him?
All right. So Steve, I understand from what I've heard so far, you do 3D animation. So tell me more about that. How did you get into that?
Literally, I had come to the end of a career and I was laying in bed with a huge pain in my tooth here, thinking, what am I going to do with my life? And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to challenge myself to do something I never thought I could do. And from that day, as the pain started going down and the swelling went down, I started in 3D animation, and I have not looked back.
So why did you pick 3D animation?
Because I didn't think I could do it, and now I've proved myself wrong.
Nice. So what all do you do? How long have you been doing it?
So that was October 2009, and then I made the commitment to do it in 1st of January 2010. So it's very easy to know the anniversary of when I've been in 3D animation. It was the 1st of January 2010.
Nice. So what kind of projects have you been doing so far?
One project. I wrote a script throughout 2010, and I've been animating it ever since, because I recognized that getting a script made into a Hollywood production is incredibly difficult. For a first timer, almost 100% impossible. So I thought, how could I skew the odds to improve those odds? And I thought, you know what the other screenwriters aren't doing? They're not 3D animating. So I set about doing it.
Wow.
Yeah. And next summer, I will have finished my film. It's now actually a trilogy. It's going to be a trilogy. But I just love this world I've created so much. Yeah. So then it becomes, how do I offer these services to other people? I also have marketing skills. So which direction will we go? The ideal one would be that I do actually sell the film, or get it optioned at least. And yeah, that will be very good.
Now, have you ever thought of doing smaller projects?
Absolutely. And to be frank with you, if we were going to work together, you do have to understand that 3D animation is an incredible undertaking. It is difficult, slow. So realistically, you would be looking at animating static objects. You know, I'm thinking of a certain price point. You'd be looking at buildings would be ideal because there's no moving parts. I just move the camera around, shine some daylight on there, jobs are good 'em. Yeah, so that wouldn't be too expensive. I mean, obviously, if you wanted me to make the building, that would be time to model the building. But apart from that, pretty straightforward project. If you want me to animate people having a conversation and you want it to be realistic, you've now added a whole layer of complexity. So obviously that would take longer to do and it'd have to cost more. So in between those two extremes, you've got a doable project.
So, because I'm picturing if it can be drawn, if it can be taken a picture of, anything can be animated.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the beautiful world of animation. Anything can happen. So, if I had a project that was a small and I needed like a 30-second of a show off of a product, like a prototype product.
Yeah.
What would I be looking at time wise? How does that work?
That would be pretty quick. I mean, so I'm seeing at the moment some small object on a kind of a rotating pedestal. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you have to know, with me, I do the music as well, so I could write custom music.
Okay.
You're in my studio here. You're in my man cave here.
I do see the studio. Yes.
Yeah. So I can do the lot. You see, it doesn't take me too long to knock up a tune. So I'm seeing a kind of elevator music with a turntable thing happening, and perhaps a spotlight coming from a right angle down, 30 degrees down, to show off your product with an interesting light. Not too much work.
Huh. So yeah, this would be that. So now taking it off of role playing, this would be that moment of, okay, now we're going to get more serious.
Yeah.
Here's what my project is going to look like. I'm going to want to talk to you about this once I get some more things. And so officially, Steve, I probably will be following up with you because I do have.
See how that works, Steve?
Yeah, this is how this works, because I want to know what I'm getting myself into, price point wise, how long that project would take, all of the extra details. That requires more of an official meeting.
Yes, it does.
Right. So see, this is at that point of, I go, wow, I definitely need to talk to you more. I have a lot of questions, but I want to get my stuff together to make sure I, ask the right questions. When are you available for something like that?
That's right. So are you asking me now, when am I available to talk about it?
Yeah.
Well, that connection was just made live and in person.
Yeah. Well,
and while you're talking to her, put me on the list, because I got a little project too.
So this is how my life works just at the moment. I need to finish the film. However, as I'm rendering, that's when you see the counter. You see, there's often a counter sort of there-ish on my name. That's the countdown until my rendering's finished. Now, during that time, that's my networking, looking for business, putting stuff on Twitter, whatever you like, time. So during those times, which will work out an average of 35% of my working day, I'm available to talk to people about projects. Okay. And that would, and that's from now. Now that would enable me to talk to anybody straight away up until next summer. And then of course, next summer when I'm done, hey, I'm free looking all the time for work then. So I can be 100% flexible. So you just pick a day, the actual time I'd probably have to give a range if that's okay. Because if I'm very honest with you right now, I'd need to finish this movie because it's costing me an arm and a leg.
Right.
Done.
Well,
yeah, it's been a 5-year project so far.
Yeah, and we're not at the infomercial stage yet, but I know what I want to be able to do.
Yep.
And so it's going to take a few months to even get to that point anyway. So having the conversation now is perfect.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, I am literally available any day.
There you go. And that, folks, is how you do it. Networking the No Rules Way with author Christy Smallwood.
That's a live testimonial right there.
That is a live testimonial.
Yes. And Steve, there is my email.
Okay.
And by all means, connect with me. Let me know kind of a time range. And then I'll try to sync something up with the calendar. A 30-minute conversation can probably tell me everything I need. Yeah,
I'm writing you an email right now. See how quick it works?
See, that was absolutely perfect. That is absolutely hysterical. And Steve, I do want to talk to you also because one of these days, because I want to know how you can dumb this 3D process down to something that can be manageably and reasonably priced for the masses. I think that's something that you really need to consider, but that's a whole nother conversation. We will connect about that on a whole nother time. But because I think there's some huge opportunity there. And I do just want to say to everybody, we've got quite a few people in the room, you guys. We do have an open seat. Feel free to come join us. We're networking the No Rules Way with author Christy Smallwood. And you just missed our great connecting conversation. But of course, you can get it on replay. You can find us both at networklivevirtually.com. And actually, now you can find Steve Payne there as well, because he, I think, is probably going to pop in and join some more networkings. And we're so excited to have you.
Indeed. Thank you for inviting me.
Yay.
Christy Smallwood is a new host. I believe that'll be starting there next week.
Next Wednesday evening.
Networklivevirtually.com. She'll be she'll be hosting meetings Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Much similar to Blab, except that we have the ability to have up to 25 people in our room. So it's a lot of fun. Again, we have an open seat. Feel free to come join us. Charlene Burke says, tell everybody it's more structured. Okay, Charlene. So we're talking about the follow-up. Is it appropriate when you go to a networking event? Christy, here's a good question for you. Is it appropriate when you go to a networking event and you've talked to all these people? Like I went to a local event just a few weeks ago and I have a stack of cards like this. Is it appropriate just to throw them on my email list?
Yes. Yes. First of all, because they are now part of your audience, it's appropriate to put them into whatever drip campaigns you may have for your emails if you're sending out a newsletter, things like that. Because you should be also allowing them an option at the bottom to unsubscribe. So that way you can connect with them first. They do have an option to unsubscribe. Then what I also do with a stack of business cards like that, and if I had a way to move this all around easily, I'd show you, because I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 little stacks of business cards, and my mom has about 5,000 business cards that she's entering into a database. So my little stacks over here are all categorized for different projects. So I need certain people for this real estate project I'm working on. I need certain people for an event that I'm working on. I have a certain stack for my Executive Women International people. So I've categorized them in my stacks. And then what I also need to be able to do is take that and put it into an electronic system. So whenever I need to communicate in mass, I can do that very easily. But if I want to be able to see their face or just quickly pull out something, I'll reach for the stack, because I'm still that on the fence person. I like good old tangible things like books and business card. I like tangible. I will write notes. I will write out my calendar as much as I put it on the screen. So I have redundancy going on. It may sound like a lot of work, but it's just me. but I do have digital and paper versions. And then, yes, Charlene, they are already segmented for the database because I've given them a category of how I want to be able to see them. I can pull up that category of people. So it allows me to structure all of my contacts together as well. But back to your original question, yes, put them on your email list because it allows you to communicate with them. And it also gives them an opportunity, if they're not ready to connect back with you yet, it does give them an opportunity to go, oh, good. I'm glad she reached out because I lost her business card.
Okay, well, I was going to, I actually wrote an email that said, hey, it was so nice to meet you at this event. I have added you to my email list. If for any reason you don't want to be here, please unsubscribe below with my apologies. Should I do that, or is that just a whole waste of time?
I think it's very appropriate because that's very respectful of people and their space. You could even potentially add, if you segment your cards prior to that email, instead of sending that email en masse, segment that email to those people and those business cards that you want to be able to have more time with. That way you can personalize the stack that you want to personalize at the same time. And then because you're giving them a heads up that the newsletter is going to come. I think that's very appropriate. It doesn't have to be there if you don't want to connect with them personally yet. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's a matter of do I want to make the personal connection before I start sending them the newsletter?
Well, I think that and maybe I'm about to say the totally wrong thing, but, when you meet a large group of people, 40 people at an event, and you're walking around with 40 cards that you get home with, that's a lot of people who try to reach out one at a time and say, hey, before you send them your newsletter.
Yes, it is.
So
that's why I say it's okay to just send the newsletter. It's okay to do that because yes, you have the opt out for people to just unsubscribe once they get that newsletter. I've had that done to me hundreds of times. So I totally know those people who do that kind of stuff. It's expected. If I want to opt out, I do. If I like them, I will keep their stuff and just have my email system say, here, put it in this folder so it doesn't gunk up my top feed there. So yeah, I use those kind of systems with that. But yeah, 40 people. That's why I like to come home with those business cards and put them in separate piles. Those that I want to talk to again, those that I just need to have in my audience, those that I never want to see again, rip it. Or sometimes actually those I kind of put a big X on and kind of keep it up for a little bit. So it reminds me, I don't want to hang out with that person at all. And I have maybe 4 or 5 of those people in my network totally. Yeah, I don't have very many. So that's good.
I thought you were going to talk about 4 or 5 stacks of those. I was going to say, how sad is that?
No. Out of the thousands of contacts that I have, I think I only have 4 or 5 that I really don't want to hang out with.
Got you. So again, we're talking about follow-up. Are there some more tips or tricks that you can give us today on follow-up? Connect
as many places as you can. So if you really want to have people remember you, because if you're around especially online, because the Blab rooms you're in and out, if you're not building that, how do you build a consistent network of people online? This is why I love what you're doing with Network Live Virtually. Am I getting that backwards? Live Network?
No,
Networker
Live Virtually.com.
Because it builds a base of people who are going to be consistent with their networking online. That's one of the reasons I love that, because I'll be able to see these people on a more regular basis and actually build some great relationships that way. With something like Blab or even Twitter, it's harder to build those kind of relationships because you have to be a lot more intentional. There has to be a lot more reach out on a frequency basis, and it has to be genuine to build a real strong connection, ongoing relationship connection with people just online. Because online world, people can put masks on very easily in the online world.
Well, and there's no emotion in words, and sometimes you can get the wrong emotion conveyed in words.
Right.
It's highly unlikely that you'll ever get the right emotion conveyed in words. So I think I think that without being able to connect with somebody face to face like we do at our meetings on Zoom, things can really go haywire quickly.
Mm-hmm.
With just the wrong word that is interpreted on either end differently than maybe it was intended.
Yeah, there's less miscommunication. Not that there's not any, because we all have miscommunication, but there's less when we can shake hands together, when we can see the body language. So this Blab and the Zoom platforms that is great for that because it helps cut down some of that miscommunication barrier. When we're trying to do things strictly through word, through text on a screen, it is going to be harder because in the grand scheme of things, I'm sure you guys have already heard, out of the pie of communication, 7% of that pie are words that we use. And so the rest of it is tone and inflection, body language, how we're the whole package. 7% is just the words.
That's true. James has got a good point here. He says, not to mention certain words mean something different depending on the part of the world they are in and their particular upbringing.
I do have a funny story about that. So,
go ahead. James, feel free to hop in here just any old time.
So I did a mission trip to Romania. The mission was to work with the gypsy people and love on them a little bit. And our translator, we had a bus driver and we had the translator. And one of our mission members, she's a real cheerleader type. Okay, so she's very energetic. Ooh, just sparkly objects everywhere, right? So she saw the police had drove past and they were on their way to somewhere. And she's very not even thinking. She's like, oh, look, there goes the popo. Now in the U.S., that's one of those little terms you call the police. It's an old term. You call the police the popo. Not in Romania.
What does the popo mean?
Romania, in Romania, popo is actually the word for homosexual. Right. And like, no. We can't do that here. Well, at least not in front of them, right? We don't know exactly how they're going to take that. So, certain words that may be English over here, it doesn't come across the same way over there. And I have certain words that rednecks use that other people don't.
Boy, ain't that the truth. I'll never forget the first time I moved down south and I heard somebody call a shopping cart a buggy. I'm like, what? A buggy?
Yes.
I'm going into the store to hear this guy tell his wife or a girl or whatever, how do you get the buggy? I'm like, what are we getting the buggy for? We got a baby? So, yeah, there you go. There is proof of words right there for you, James. And let's see, Steve wants to know, do you find in the entrepreneurial world people take offense less quickly? I don't think so. I think they take offense more quickly.
Really?
That's my opinion, but
wow.
I think it's hard to convey, because it's harder to convey. Well, I guess not necessarily in the entrepreneurial world, but in the digital space like Facebook and the social media platforms, because something that maybe I shared that I intended to share is funny, other people may take offense to.
Humor can be dodgy. Humor can be localized. Yeah.
Humor can be dodgy. See, there's a perfect example right there. Dodgy for me means I got to look out for the ball. Somebody's throwing it at me.
Yeah, that's London speak. Dodgy means not very. I was going to give you more London speak, not kosher. No, hang on.
Yeah.
Means it not reliable. How about that?
Yeah. Welcome, Amanda. Thanks for joining us. We've got an open seat, you guys. Feel free to come on in and chat with us. We're chatting with author Christy Smallwood, author of Networking the No Rules Way. We're talking about follow-up. We've actually just done some role-playing with Steve Payne, and we're trying to convince him to do work for us, to do some fun stuff. Some 3D action.
Convinced.
We're going to have to wait till 2016, I think. So having said that,
No, my question was, so far on Blab, it's been exceptionally professional. If you stick in the professional Blabs, people have been very good humoured. I've seen a couple of maybe 3 arguments in 56 days.
I've seen a couple little nippity things happen. Yeah.
But by and large, people are very professional, and they conduct themselves well. And I'm loving the environment for that reason. But so you made the point, Sabrina, a very good point, that if you haven't got that face to face, and then you go in with humour as well, with the written word, there's more chance. But let's just go back to the kind of live streaming Blab world again. Are you finding that when a little side shot is parted at somebody, I've seen a few, that they deflect it pretty professionally, or do you think things can get quite fractious?
Well, the only one I've actually really seen got pretty heated.
Because
so yeah,
you've got to bear in mind. I think you've got to be prepared to say to the other guy, "You're right," even if you think he's a bit of a twit, because you're always on camera, you're always on air, and you can lose your reputation just like that. If I could click my fingers, see, I can't make the noise. Click, there you go. You can lose your reputation just like that. You know, if you lose your temper.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to remember that everybody has a valid opinion, and you might not always get on with everyone. But so, given that viewpoint, do you feel it's a good world for that kind of thing, or Christy? Or
this is where I would go into a coach mode.
Okay.
If somebody said, and there's a great tool for this, because really what I need in that moment. So if somebody said something that I'm offended by, and it takes. I've worked a lot to not be offended because I really just want to get to the point. I just kind of overlook a lot of stuff. This is my entrepreneurial world. I don't have time to be offended. Let's just get some work done.
Yeah.
So let's talk ideas, not the gossip of people. Let's focus on that. That's where I am. But if I get offended by something, I need in my head a pause moment, because I need to be able to respond, not react.
Yeah.
And if that is the goal. And so if that's the goal for me in that moment, is I need to be able to respond professionally and appropriately and move on. What do I need to do? And in those split seconds there is a tool that helps. And the first thing to say is that's interesting.
Okay.
Because it gives you just a few seconds of a pause for yourself. You've acknowledged the words that they have said have held value in the airspace of communication. Okay. That's interesting, because it is interesting. It's interesting you would say something so damn stupid. Right? It's interesting.
Well, I got to tell you, go ahead, Christy. Sorry. Then I got to tell you something. Go ahead.
So there's thought bubbles that I may have, but what needs to come out is, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
If I want to know more, I'll say, tell me more.
Can you tag on, that's interesting, you get? Or does that not work?
No, you stop at that's interesting, and you get comes out here.
Okay.
See, that's why body language says a lot, too. That's interesting.
I was watching a Blab one day where they kind of had a little bit of this going on, and I thought that one of the gentleman's answers was so perfect. He said, I don't see it that way, but I'm perfectly willing to learn from you.
Very humble.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like floored. I thought, wow.
Uh-huh. That's beautiful. That is beautiful, because it's putting you in a position of student. And actually in that situation, it makes you that better person to say, okay, you know what? I'm willing to humble myself. Like you said, Steve, I'm willing to be a little humble.
Yeah.
To learn, maybe I'm not quite correct here. Yes, I've gotten my buttons pushed, but I'm still willing to listen. The other thing that I learned this from a different coach. There's different aspects of that whole, that's interesting, because you can stop with there and say, tell me more, because I don't have enough to respond yet. Or that's interesting. Why would you say that? Or that's interesting. Why would you ask me that? Or that's interesting. Why did you do that? And always use a curious tone of inflection to keep it non-confrontational so that it gives you time for them to just talk it out, because sometimes people don't even realize they said what they just said.
Okay.
So if you're able to give them time to talk it out, sometimes they realize they've just said something that doesn't make a darn bit of sense.
Plus.
Hi.
Oh, sorry. I know you're going to. Can I just do this one quick thing here, Sabrina? Plus, you can always
Yes,
give them the
please do,
face.
Steve.
Give them the face.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Good job, Steve. Give him the face.
That's awesome.
I just want to acknowledge that Sherry says that's interesting, and then maybe ask them to explain more, because then you get the context of what they were saying.
Exactly, Sherry. Exactly.
Agreed. Sherry, we have an open seat if you'd like to come in. We've only got about 13 more minutes, and we'll be moving on today. You can find myself, your host, and author Christy Smallwood here on Blab every Wednesday, 10 a.m. Eastern time. We're talking about networking the no rules way, and hopefully we are teaching people how to connect. It seems to be very challenging in 2015/2016, whether it's online or in person. Connection just seems to be tough.
And it's easy enough to follow people or friend people or connect on LinkedIn, but that's not where the real connection happens.
No.
I can add you to my network that way, but that's not creating the real connection. The real connection takes a lot of intentionality on your part. So when we're trying to connect and make that strong connection with somebody, I think there's a book out there called Click, and I can't remember who did it, but it's wrapped around that. Some people just have it naturally. Like sometimes you've met your best friend for the first time at an event or even online, and you talk like you've known each other for years. Some people just click that way. Gladwell, thank you, Sherry. And it's a fascinating subject of how people's energy naturally gravitate to each other easily. Other people, we have to work at it. You know, some people, I have a lot of energy out there that people are drawn to, and I don't take that lightly. I make sure that I don't have my walls up whenever they get here. I try so it's not like a bug zapper. I don't want to draw them in, and then I don't want to do that to people, because that I have had to work on that aspect of things.
Don't be a bug zapper. Wow, that is it's funny that you said that, because I was just going to say that is one of my weak points, believe it or not, is that, I guess it's hard to tell right here, but when I am in certain in-person settings with specific people that have a tendency to make me nervous, stupid shit falls out of my mouth, and it's like, how do you reel that back in? Because it just went, yeah, I'm a retard. Can we try this again next week?
It happens.
So how do you stop that?
It happens to the best of us. First of all, don't beat yourself up. It'll be okay. And the other thing is, for me, it goes back to self-control. What is the intentionality I have? What is the goal that I have? How do I want to take lead in this? And so instead of just letting things fall where they may in a conversation, I need the conversation to feel like it's going to go somewhere. So I want to be able to do that. If I know I want the conversation to go somewhere, even if I have just met the person at the top of my chicken shit list, is what I call it. Like the people, oh my gosh, they never want to talk to me. They would never do business with me. I'm so scared to contact them. Once I get over that, I've been able to talk to former governors and current senators and sit with them at a table like we're buddies, but there's still a point to the conversation. I know certain things I have to do in that conversation to make it work.
Yeah.
One, when you're talking to politicians, make them feel good. You boost their ego. Talk about all the good stuff that they're doing, right? They need to hear that by nature. So if I do that, but I help steer the conversation and ask those questions about things where I want it to go. Like Steve, with you, I have a small project. So I found out all the, what you're working on, where you are, but I'm funneling this. I'm figuring out, okay, yes, he can fit this in his wheelhouse, but he can't fit me in time. So, okay, this is where this all fits. great. This is how this conversation is going to look. Let's go have this conversation.
Yeah.
And I've even done that I do that with a lot of people because I have a lot of things going on. I know I need to take control of the conversation.
Yeah.
Not in a bad way, but I just want us to feel like we're productive and there's a place for it. And how do we fit with each other? And is there synergy or not? Or are we just, shooting the shit to be shooting the shit for the day? I want to be able to make that decision.
Mm-hmm. So Sherry says, Sabrina, now that you know that situation is a trigger for you, you can plan a go-to behavior that gives you time to adjust. Well, I'm afraid, Sherry, that my go-to behavior would be like that little bug with a whole bunch of legs that rolls up into a little ball and just kind of rolls down the sidewalk. I'm afraid that's my go-to behavior. So yes, I'm going to have to work on that.
If it helps,
tell a bird, tell your aunt.
Yeah.
I found myself in an awkward social situation 7-8 years ago. Something I never thought I could cope with, but now wouldn't faze me at all. And that is, I went to a social setting where I only knew one person. And that person decided she wanted to talk to her friends for the evening. So I was just completely alone. And so I thought, well, I don't want to shrink away. So, and I don't particularly want to talk to these people either. I don't know them. Typical bloke, eh?
Yeah, you were in a pickle,
Yeah, I was
you?
in a pickle. So I just bought myself a drink and I just sort of sat there and I felt perfectly comfortable with myself, I think if you can... Sabrina, get into a position where perhaps you say to yourself, doesn't really bother me what these people think about me. I'm just going to be me. If I have a conversation, great. If I don't, doesn't really bother me. Perhaps that's the key.
Well, it's funny, but in this particular setting that we got going on right here, right now, it really wouldn't matter who was sitting in that hot seat. It wouldn't bother me at all. It's that one-on-one situation that becomes sometimes an issue for me, in which I get this nervous, roll up like a little ball and, roll down the sidewalk thing going on. So, but like in this totally public situation like we have right now, that never bothers me. Before I say hi to you, Sherry, I just want to remind everybody that Christy Smallwood has shared her book with us. Christy, if you would put that link in there again for everybody that's here right now. So if you would like to read Christy Smallwood's book, Networking the No Rules Way, it is available on Google Docs for a limited time. You can also connect with all of us at networklivevirtually.com. Having said that, hi, Sherry.
Hello.
So glad you joined us.
Okay. Well, I wanted to say this, going back to, because everybody encounters that situation where you come into a familiar, for you, a familiar situation that triggers the swatting the bug behavior. And what I meant when I said, once you know that is your trigger, and anybody who's listened to my podcast knows one of my triggers is when I find myself cleaning out closets, I know I'm avoiding something. Okay. Okay. So what I do, because a lot of people don't realize I'm really shy. Okay. So when I go to an unfamiliar situation or with a group of people that I'm just meeting, I know my trigger is to, so rather than do that, because that is my accepted behavior, my go-to behavior is to focus on one person. Walk up to someone and say hello or something and ask them a question, because now they're talking and I get a chance to listen and sort of take deep breaths, respond to what they say or whatever, so that I get more comfortable. Okay. Because I like your energy, Sabrina.
Thank you, Sherry. And actually, I want to connect outside of here with you. I got some questions for you, but go ahead.
All right, but I really like your energy. So the thing that I'm saying is, once you have developed your go-to behavior, that gives you time to adjust so that people can now experience that nice little, I hate to use the word sprite, but that's what comes across to me. Sprite behavior or personality that is you. So that was the point that I wanted to make, that just because this has been your behavior in the past doesn't mean it goes away, but you can come up with a substitute that will help you sort of get over the hump so that people are able to see and make that connection. Okay.
So they don't want to bug zap me.
That's it. You know, because if you stop thinking of them as bugs, or basically say, okay, here are the bugs. I know what happens when the bugs show up. So rather than getting the fly swatter, maybe I should get some bug spray. You know what I mean? That's the point. Now, so I'm really enjoying this Blab, and I'll go back. I'll follow you, Sabrina, but I just
and connect with me. I want to connect with you, Sherry. I got some questions to ask you about podcasting.
Yeah, definitely follow me on Twitter, and that way I can get in touch. Okay.
Well, if I can figure out how.
Well, if you click,
Twitter's not my best platform. So.
Well, if you click,
there we are. I found you.
Yes, you know. So that way I'll follow you back, and that way we can talk, okay? But like I said, I'm really enjoying this. You guys are, I think, giving some excellent information and some really good ideas. And I just wanted to throw that out there and encourage you to keep going. And Christy, I'm really enjoying some of the things that you're coming up with are golden, okay?
They are golden.
All right.
Oh, thank you, Sherry.
Thanks, Sherry.
And thanks for joining us. Thank you, Steve, for joining us. And Maxscape. Yeah, we need to hook up with you one of these days, too. Hover over Sherry's dot icon on the top. Actually, I figured out how to do it. So it's funny that Christy says connect with us on all these platforms, because I got to tell you guys, I do not know Twitter. And I don't spend much time on LinkedIn. I'm a Facebook girl, and that's like all the time I have. So when people say to me, connect with me on Twitter, I'm like, where's Twitter? I know it's out there, really. I mean, you know, and obviously I have a presence on it that's like this big. So Maxscape is telling me all about how to do this. It's not Maxscape. Hang on a minute. It is James. Thank you, James. Someday soon I'm going to learn Twitter. All right, you guys. So it is 10:59. Time for us to wrap up, I think. I want to thank Steve for being here, Sherry for being here, and of course, I want to thank Christy Smallwood, our author of Networking the No Rules Way, soon to be a new host on networklivevirtually.com. Come connect with all of us there. Steve hangs out there. I hang out there. And we'll be here on Wednesday, every Wednesday, 10 a.m. Eastern, and we will see you then. Thanks, guys.